My name is Elena Brooks. I'm 31 years old, and for the last 6 years, I've lived in Savannah, Georgia, restoring luxury waterfront homes for rich people who love saying original character while ripping out everything that made the house real in the first place. Funny thing is, I got pretty good at restoring broken places, just never my own family. For almost 5 years, my younger brother Caleb barely called me unless he needed something. My mom only texted when bills got tight. And my stepfather Walter treated me like the emergency contact for problems he didn't want to solve himself. But every single time they needed help, I showed up. Mortgage late? I wired money. Car transmission blown? I covered it. Hospital deductible? Paid overnight. Christmas gifts for Caleb's kids because money was tight this year? Yeah, that was me too. Nobody forced me. That's the part that hurts the most. I volunteered for my own exhaustion because somewhere deep down, I thought loyalty worked like deposits. Like eventually love would bounce back with interest. It never did. Then last October, my mother called crying. "Oh, honey, I think this might be our last Thanksgiving together as a full family." Those words hit me straight in the chest. My mother had developed heart issues earlier that year. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but enough to make suddenly everyone speak softer around her. Enough to make me panic every time my phone rang after midnight. So when she said that, I folded instantly. I canceled a work trip to Boston, paid for 3 first-class tickets to Savannah, rented a massive beach house on Tybee Island because Caleb said the kids needed space, ordered groceries, hired a private chef for Thanksgiving dinner, bought decorations my mother used to love when I was little. I wanted it perfect. Not Instagram perfect, memory perfect. The kind of Thanksgiving people talk about years later after someone's gone. I spent almost $12,000 in 6 days, and honestly, I would have spent double if it meant hearing my mother laugh in my kitchen again. The morning they arrived, I stood outside baggage claim holding flowers like some cheesy Hallmark movie daughter trying too hard. People kept reuniting around me. Tears, hugs, smiles. Every time the airport doors opened, my heart jumped. Then my phone buzzed. Caleb. "Hey sis, slight change of plans. Mom's exhausted from the flight, so we're going to stay downtown tonight near River Street. Easier for the kids." I stared at the message for a full 10 seconds. Downtown? They were supposed to stay at the beach house with me. I called immediately. Caleb answered sounding distracted. Kids yelling in the background, music playing. "Hey," he dragged out casually. "Don't be mad." "Mad? I'm literally at the airport." "Yeah, Walter thought it'd be easier not driving out to Tybee today." "It's 25 minutes. Traffic's crazy right now." "It's Tuesday morning." He laughed awkwardly. That laugh. That same laugh people use when they already know they're wrong but expect you to swallow it quietly. "Look," he said, "we'll all meet tomorrow, okay? Mom's tired." Then he hung up, just like that. I stood there in the airport parking lot holding flowers nobody came to take. You know what the worst part was? Not the cancellation, not even the humiliation. It was the fact my first instinct was still to defend them. Maybe Mom really was tired. Maybe the kids were cranky. Maybe I was overthinking. People like me become experts at turning disrespect into excuses because the truth hurts too bad otherwise. That night, I drove alone to the beach house I paid for. 6 bedrooms, ocean view, warm lights glowing through giant windows, Thanksgiving decorations already set up. The dining table seated 10. 10. I remember standing there staring at those empty chairs while the sound of the ocean crashed outside. It felt like the whole house was waiting with me. At around 9 p.m., my mother finally called. "Oh, sweetheart," she said softly. "Don't sound disappointed." I hadn't even spoken yet. "I'm not disappointed," I lied. "You know how Caleb gets with the children." There it was, always Caleb. When he forgot birthdays, stress. When he borrowed money, pressure. When he disappeared for months, he's overwhelmed. But when I got quiet, I was cold. When I stopped helping, I was selfish. My mother continued, "Tomorrow will be better." Tomorrow. Family like mine survives on tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll visit. Tomorrow we'll call. Tomorrow we'll appreciate you. Tomorrow never arrives. It just keeps changing clothes. The next morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. and started cooking anyway, because hope is embarrassing like that. I made cinnamon rolls from scratch because Caleb's Lily loved them when they were little. I brewed fresh coffee, set the table, opened every curtain so sunlight poured through the beach house like something from a movie. At 10:12 a.m., Caleb texted, "Actually, we're doing brunch downtown with Walter's cousins. Rain check?" Rain check? For Thanksgiving week? For family? I sat there staring at my phone while the cinnamon rolls went cold. Then Instagram updated. Caleb had posted a story. They were all together at some rooftop brunch place downtown. My mother smiling, Walter holding a mimosa, the kids laughing. Caption, "Family time finally." Finally. Like I wasn't family. That word cracked something open inside me. Not loudly, quietly, like ice breaking under too much weight. I wish I could tell you I immediately became strong after that. I didn't. I cried in the pantry. Actually cried holding a bag of flour like some pathetic sitcom character nobody would respect if they saw it happen. Because the truth wasn't just that they ignored me. It was that I had spent years trying to earn a place in rooms where my seat should have already existed. By Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, I was running on 3 hours of sleep and pure denial. The private chef arrived at noon. The turkey smelled incredible. Candles flickered across the dining room. Everything looked beautiful. Too beautiful. Like a staged home nobody lives in. At 1:07 p.m., my mother texted, "Sweetheart, small change. Walter's brother invited everyone to his place for dinner. We don't want to offend them." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process another disappointment in human form. I called immediately. My mother answered, whispering like I was the problem. "Mom," I said carefully, "you're skipping Thanksgiving dinner? It's complicated." "No," I said quietly, "it's actually very simple." She sighed hard into the phone. "Elena, please don't ruin the holiday." Ruin. Interesting word. Apparently, the person reacting to pain ruins holidays more than the people causing it. I asked one question. "Were you ever planning to come here?" Silence. Real silence. Not confusion, not surprise. The kind of silence that tells you the truth arrived before the words did. Then Walter's voice sounded somewhere in the background. "Is she still upset?" Still. Like my feelings were some recurring inconvenience. My mother lowered her voice. "You know how families are." No. Actually, I didn't. Because families are supposed to notice when one person is carrying everybody else. That afternoon, I sat alone at a dining table built for 10 people, while waves crashed outside, like the ocean itself was angry for me. The chef kept asking politely if he should continue serving. I told him yes. Then I tipped him double, because somebody deserved kindness that day. At 4:18 p.m., Caleb posted another photo. Everybody around a crowded table downtown. My mother raising a wine glass. Caption: "Wouldn't trade this chaos for anything." That sentence nearly destroyed me, because I had spent years giving them stability while they celebrated chaos somewhere else. And suddenly, everything became clear. Not dramatic clear, dangerous clear. The kind of clarity that changes your life permanently 5 seconds after it arrives. I opened my laptop, logged into my banking accounts, and started adding numbers. Mortgage assistance, medical bills, school tuition help, Walter's temporary business loan, plane tickets, car repairs, emergency grocery transfers, birthday money, Christmas money, random Venmo requests disguised as jokes. By midnight, the total sat on my screen. $94,231. $94,000. I stared at that number until my eyes blurred. Do you know what's terrifying? Not realizing people used you. Realizing they got comfortable doing it. That night, I created a spreadsheet called Family Contributions 2019-2025. Then I made another document underneath it. This one shorter, much shorter. 3 paragraphs. No yelling, no insults, no drama. Just truth. And sometimes truth lands harder when you stop decorating it for other people's comfort. I finished writing around 2 a.m. Then I walked outside barefoot onto the beach, cold wind hitting my face, dark waves rolling endlessly in front of me. And for the first time in years, I asked myself a question I had avoided my entire adult life. What happens if I stop being useful? The next morning, I woke up to 12 notifications and exactly 0 messages asking if I was okay. That tells you everything, right there. People who love you usually notice your silence. People who use you only notice your absence when something stops arriving. Coffee, money, convenience, access. I sat in the beach house kitchen wrapped in a sweatshirt, staring through the ocean through giant windows that suddenly felt too big for one person. My phone buzzed again. Caleb. Yo, you coming downtown today or what? No apology, no acknowledgement, not even fake guilt. Just, you coming or what? Like I was some flaky friend instead of the woman who funded half their lives. I typed 3 different responses before deleting all of them. Then I sent, no, busy today. 3 dots appeared instantly. Seriously? I locked my phone without answering. For years, my family had trained me to explain every boundary like I was presenting evidence in court. If I said no, I needed a reason acceptable enough to survive cross-examination. Tired wasn't enough. Hurt wasn't enough. Disrespected definitely wasn't enough. So I stopped explaining. And weirdly, that scared them faster than anger ever did. Around noon, my best friend Vanessa showed up at the beach house carrying iced coffee and enough emotional rage for both of us. Vanessa was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and immediately tell who hadn't apologized properly in their entire life. She took one look at the untouched Thanksgiving leftovers still sitting in containers and muttered, "Oh, hell no." I tried laughing. Didn't work. She sat beside me at the kitchen island and asked softly, "How bad is it, really?" That question broke me more than cruelty ever could, because kind people ask questions dangerous enough to tell the truth inside. I opened my laptop, turned the screen toward her. The spreadsheet glowed between us. Every transfer, every payment, every rescue mission disguised as family support. Vanessa kept scrolling silently. Then she whispered, "Elena, this is almost $100,000. I nodded once. She looked physically angry. "Baby, this ain't support anymore. This is sponsorship." That line hit so hard I had to look away. Because she was right. I wasn't participating in a family. I was financing one. And the craziest part? Nobody had even pretended otherwise lately. The appreciation disappeared years ago. Now they just expected things, like emotional Amazon Prime. Need something? Ask Elena. Problem solved. No delivery fee. Vanessa closed the laptop slowly. "So what are you going to do?" I stared out toward the ocean. The answer had already formed sometime around midnight. I was just scared to say it out loud because once spoken, certain truths refuse to shrink back down. "I'm done," I whispered. "With all of it?" I nodded again, then immediately felt sick afterward. Because people like me confuse boundaries with betrayal. You spend years being praised for self-sacrifice, then panic the second you choose yourself. My phone rang again. "Mom." I answered this time. Her voice sounded cheerful, too cheerful. That fake brightness people use when they know something's wrong but would rather skip directly to pretending it isn't. "Sweetheart, we're doing lunch on River Street. You should come." Not, "How are you?" Not, "We missed you yesterday." Just another invitation where I was expected to arrive grateful for scraps. "I'm not coming," I said calmly. Silence. Then, "Are you still upset?" Still, like pain has an expiration date when it inconveniences others. "I'm not upset," I replied quietly. "I'm paying attention." That changed the energy immediately. "What's that supposed to mean?" I looked at Vanessa. She gave me a tiny nod. So I asked the questions sitting in my chest all week. "Mom, if I hadn't paid for this trip, would y'all even have come?" Dead silence. Not shocked silence, caught silence. Then she said carefully, "Why would you even ask that?" "Because you didn't come to see me. You came near me." Huge difference. I could hear restaurant noise behind her, glasses clinking, kids yelling, people living their lives while mine felt like it was splitting open. "Elena," she sighed, "you're making this bigger than it needs to be." There it was, the family anthem. Your pain is always too loud once it becomes inconvenient. I swallowed hard. I rented a 6-bedroom beach house. You didn't have to do all that. That sentence almost made me laugh, because that's what users say after benefiting from generosity they never planned to appreciate. You didn't have to. Translation, your effort was your choice, so your hurt is your responsibility. I said softly, "I wanted 1 week with my family." "We are family," she snapped back quickly. "No, I'm your emergency contact." The line went completely quiet. Then her tone changed, sharper now. "You know your brother has more responsibilities than you." Responsibilities. Interesting word, considering I'd hang half his bills. I asked calmly, "Do you know how much money I've sent this family in the last 5 years?" "That's not fair." "Do you know?" "No," she admitted. $94,000. Silence again. Longer this time. Then finally, "Well, families help each other." I closed my eyes. Because somehow hearing that hurt more than outright cruelty. Not thank you, not we appreciate you, just obligation. Like my love had become taxes everybody assumed were automatic. Vanessa reached over and squeezed my wrist gently, grounding me, keeping me from sliding backwards into guilt. I took a breath. Mom, after this trip, I'm stopping all financial support. The restaurant noise behind her suddenly disappeared, like the entire world paused around that sentence. What? I'm done paying for things. Elena, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. Yes, you are, over one holiday? One holiday? That's how people minimize years of pain, reduce it down to the final incident so they never have to examine the pattern. I stood up from the kitchen stool and walked toward the balcony doors because suddenly I couldn't breathe inside that house anymore. This isn't about Thanksgiving, I said quietly. It's about realizing none of you noticed me until I stopped smiling. My mother's voice cracked slightly. You know Caleb is struggling. Caleb is 40 years old. He has children. And I have a life. That line slipped out before I could soften it. Honestly, I'm glad it did, because for years I had treated my own existence like the least important thing in every room. My mother inhaled sharply. So that's it? You're abandoning your family? Funny how quickly support becomes abandonment once it ends. I stared at the gray ocean rolling beyond the balcony. No, I said softly. I think I'm finally stopping the abandonment of myself. Then I hung up. My hands shook so badly afterward I almost dropped the phone. Vanessa hugged me immediately, and the second she did, I started crying so hard I couldn't even stand straight anymore. Not delicate movie tears either. Ugly grief, the kind buried under years of pretending things don't hurt. Because losing the fantasy of someday being fully loved by your family, that's a death in its own way. Around 4 p.m., Caleb finally called. I almost ignored it. Almost. But some stupid, hopeful part of me still wanted my brother to say something real for once. I answered. What the hell is wrong with you? He snapped immediately. And there went hope. I laughed once under my breath. Hey, to you too. Mom's crying at lunch because of your little meltdown. Meltdown. Interesting choice of words for someone who spent 6 years cashing my transfers without embarrassment. I kept my voice calm. I'm not having a meltdown. I'm setting boundaries. Oh my God, he groaned. You've been listening to therapy podcasts again. That sentence told me everything. In my family, accountability was considered brainwashing the second it interrupted convenience. You know what's crazy? I said quietly. Not once this week did you ask me to join anything. That's not true. Really? Name one. Silence. Then anger, because people get furious when facts corner them. We've been busy. You've been nearby. That's not the same thing. Exactly. I leaned against the balcony railing. Do you even realize I paid for this entire trip? You make good money, Elena. There it was, the sentence hiding underneath everything. You can afford it, as if my income canceled out my humanity. I whispered, you know what hurts most? I really thought if I kept helping long enough, eventually I'd matter the same way you do. He actually got defensive. Oh my God, here we go. You always make yourself the victim. Victim, another favorite family word, because if they call you dramatic first, they never have to examine their own behavior. I said quietly, when was the last time you called me without needing something? No answer. Not one. Then he muttered, you're being selfish. And somehow that word finally lost its power. Selfish. Because suddenly I understood something. People benefiting from your lack of boundaries will always call boundaries selfish. Always. I smiled sadly. You know what's actually selfish, Caleb? Watching someone carry everyone for years while convincing yourself they don't get tired. He hung up on me. Of course he did. Truth makes weak people allergic to conversations. That night, I sat alone on the beach wrapped in a blanket while cold wind whipped across the shoreline. My phone stayed mostly quiet now, not because they understood, because they were regrouping. Families like mine don't apologize first, they strategize first. Sure enough, around 10 p.m., Walter finally texted me. First time all week. Elena, your mother is under enough stress already. This can wait until after the holidays. I stared at the message and actually smiled, because there it was again. Not Elena, we hurt you. Not Elena, let's fix this. Just Elena, please continue suffering quietly because your pain is making other people uncomfortable. I didn't answer. Instead, I opened my banking apps, one by one. Mortgage assistance transfer, canceled. Walter's business auto deposit, canceled. Caleb's childcare payments, canceled. Streaming services, ended. Insurance supplement, gone. Every cancellation email felt surreal. Not empowering, exactly. More like removing hooks from my skin one at a time. Painful. Necessary. By midnight, my phone exploded. Mom calling, Caleb calling, Walter calling, texts pouring in non-stop. Elena, call us. What did you do? Are you serious right now? Mom finally sent, how could you blindside us like this? I looked at that message for a long time, then typed back one sentence. How could you spend a week in my city and never come see me? No response came after that, because sometimes the truth lands so cleanly there's nowhere left to hide. And deep down, they knew. That was the worst part for all of us. They knew. The explosion came the next morning at 7:14 a.m. Not emotionally, financially. That's the thing nobody tells you about being the reliable one. The second you stop carrying people, they suddenly discover exactly how heavy their lives actually are. My phone started vibrating before I even got out of bed. 23 missed calls, mostly Caleb, a few from Mom, one from Walter, and a voicemail so long my screen showed it in pieces. I already knew what happened. The automatic transfers had started bouncing. I made coffee first anyway, because after years of panicking every time my family demanded access to me, there was something almost holy about moving slowly. The ocean outside looked gray and rough that morning, wind shaking the dunes, waves slamming hard against the shore, like even the water had finally lost patience. My phone rang again. Mom. I answered this time. She didn't say hello. Elena, your stepfather's account overdrafted. No good morning. No, are you okay? Straight to the emergency. I closed my eyes briefly. There's money in your savings account, I said calmly. You told me that last month. Silence. Then, that's for emergencies. I almost laughed, because apparently I was supposed to be the emergency fund forever. Mom, I said softly, this is exactly what I meant. You can't cut people off overnight. Actually, I can. Her breathing sharpened instantly. Elena Brooks, I did not raise you to abandon your family. And there it was again, that word, abandon. Funny how nobody uses it when they're the ones leaving you alone at dinner tables. I walked out onto the balcony barefoot, cold wood under my feet. "Want to know something?" I asked quietly. I spent Thanksgiving eating leftovers by myself in a house I rented for all of us. That was not intentional. Neither was this. That stopped her cold, because for the first time I wasn't apologizing faster than they could accuse me. She lowered her voice. "You're hurting everyone." I looked out toward the violent water crashing below. "No," I whispered. "I think everyone's finally feeling what I felt." Then she started crying, and for one dangerous second I almost folded. That's the problem when you grow up becoming everybody's emotional life raft. Even after they drown you, hearing them choke still makes you swim backward. But then my brain replayed something I hadn't let myself fully process before. Thanksgiving night, the photo Caleb posted, everybody smiling around the table, my chair never missing because nobody expected me there in the first place. That memory steadied me immediately. I said gently, "I love you, Mom, but love shouldn't require me disappearing." Then I hung up. A few minutes later, Caleb texted me a paragraph so angry it practically sweated through the screen. "Lily's dance tuition bounced because of you. Do you know how humiliating that was?" I stared at the message in disbelief, because not once did he stop to ask why I had finally broken. Just inconvenience, just consequences, just money. I typed carefully, "You're her father, not me." 3 dots appeared instantly, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, unbelievable. That word almost made me smile, because people always call boundaries unbelievable when they benefited from your exhaustion. Around noon, Vanessa dragged me out of the beach house before I drowned in my own thoughts. We walked through downtown Savannah while tourists filled the streets pretending humidity was charming. For the first time all week, my shoulders felt lighter. Still sad, still bruised, but lighter, like I'd finally set down something I'd carried so long I forgot it wasn't attached to my body. We stopped at a small bookstore near Broughton Street, and that's where everything changed again. Because while I stood flipping through some overpriced photography book, my phone buzzed with a notification from my bank. "Incoming transfer request declined." Attached note from Walter. "Need help covering utilities until next Friday." I stared at the screen, then actually laughed out loud. Vanessa looked over. "What?" I handed her the phone. She read it once and whispered, "Oh, these people got audacity. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped clean in half. Not emotionally, mentally, like the final thread connecting guilt to obligation finally broke. Because Walter watched this entire family implode over money and still asked me for more. Not an apology, not accountability, a transfer request. I opened our family group chat for the first time in 2 days. Unread messages flooded the screen. Mom talking about stress, Caleb ranting about responsibility, Walter saying everyone needed to calm down. Nobody asking how I felt. Not one. I typed slowly. "I need you all to hear this clearly. I was willing to give because I believed I mattered to this family outside of what I provided. This week showed me otherwise. I will not continue financing relationships that only function when I'm useful." Read receipts appeared instantly. Nobody replied right away, probably because truth takes longer to manipulate. Then Caleb finally answered. "So you're really doing all this over hurt feelings?" Hurt feelings. That phrase almost destroyed me more than anything else, because people reduce your pain to feelings when admitting the damage would require guilt. I responded, "No, I'm doing this because I finally realized none of you were afraid of losing me. You were afraid of access to me." Nobody replied after that, because deep down, everybody knew it was true. That evening, I returned to the beach house alone. Sunset painted the ocean gold and orange like the world was trying too hard to look peaceful. Inside, the house still looked staged. Perfect furniture, perfect lighting, perfect emptiness. I walked into the dining room slowly, 10 chairs still surrounding the table. And suddenly I saw it clearly. I had spent my entire life trying to earn basic love through extraordinary usefulness. Straight A's, reliable daughter, financial help, emotional support. The explosion came the next morning at 7:14 a.m. Not emotionally. Financially. That's the thing nobody tells you about being the reliable one. The second you stop carrying people, they suddenly discover exactly how heavy their lives actually are. My phone started vibrating before I even got out of bed. 23 missed calls, mostly Caleb, a few from Mom, one from Walter, and a voicemail so long my screen showed it in pieces. I already knew what happened. The automatic transfers had started bouncing. I made coffee first anyway, because after years of panicking every time my family demanded access to me, there was something almost holy about moving slowly. The ocean outside looked gray and rough that morning, wind shaking the dunes, waves slamming hard against the shore like even the water had finally lost patience. My phone rang again. Mom. I answered this time. She didn't say hello. Elena, your stepfather's account overdrafted. No good morning. No, are you okay? Straight to the emergency. I closed my eyes briefly. There's money in your savings account, I said calmly. You told me that last month. Silence. Then, that's for emergencies. I almost laughed, because apparently I was supposed to be the emergency fund forever. Mom, I said softly, this is exactly what I meant. You can't cut people off overnight. Actually, I can. Her breathing sharpened instantly. Elena Brooks, I did not raise you to abandon your family. And there it was again. That word. Abandon. Funny how nobody uses it when they're the ones leaving you alone at dinner tables. I walked out onto the balcony barefoot, cold wood under my feet. You want to know something? I asked quietly. I spent Thanksgiving eating leftovers by myself in a house I rented for all of us. That was not intentional. Neither was this. That stopped her cold, because for the first time, I wasn't apologizing faster than they could accuse me. She lowered her voice. You're hurting everyone. I looked out toward the violent water crashing below. No, I think everyone's finally feeling what I felt. Then she started crying, and for one dangerous second I almost folded. That's the problem when you grow up becoming everybody's emotional life raft. Even after they drown you, hearing them choke still makes you swim backward. But then my brain replayed something I hadn't let myself fully process before. Thanksgiving night, the photo Caleb posted, everybody smiling around the table, my chair never missing because nobody expected me there in the first place. That memory steadied me immediately. I said gently, I love you, Mom, but love shouldn't require me disappearing. Then I hung up. A few minutes later, Caleb texted me a paragraph so angry it practically sweated through the screen. Your Lily's dance tuition bounced because of you. Do you know how humiliating that was? I stared at the message in disbelief, because not once did he stop to ask why I had finally broken. Just inconvenience, just consequences. just money. I typed carefully. You're her father, not me. 3 dots appeared instantly, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, unbelievable. That word almost made me smile, because people always call boundaries unbelievable when they benefited from your exhaustion. Around noon, Vanessa dragged me out of the beach house before I drowned in my own thoughts. We walked through downtown Savannah while tourists filled the streets pretending humidity was charming. For the first time all week, my shoulders felt lighter. Still sad, still bruised, but lighter. Like I'd finally set down something I'd carried so long I forgot it wasn't attached to my body. We stopped at a small bookstore near Broughton Street. And that's where everything changed again. Because while I stood flipping through some overpriced photography book, my phone buzzed with a notification from my bank. Incoming transfer request declined. Attached note. From Walter. Need help covering utilities until next Friday. I stared at the screen, then actually laughed out loud. Vanessa looked over. What? I handed her the phone. She read it once and whispered, "Oh, these people got audacity. That was the moment something inside me finally snapped clean in half. Not emotionally, mentally. Like the final thread connecting guilt to obligation, finally broke. Because